everybody, welcome. This is Humblehus. Today we are doing this very pretty and super easy crochet tube scarf. This is a perfect project for any beginner, and I figured, you know what, let's do something super basic, because if you have this stitch down, which is the single crochet stitch, then you can make so many projects with it. Let your imagination run wild. Let me tell you what you're going to need for this project. I am using two different types of yarns. So the first one is this purple lavender colored yarn. It is the Bonnet Bundle Up by Yarnspirations. It is 100% polyester. It is a medium 4 weight. The recommended hook size is a 5.5 millimeter or a size I9. I can't tell you the color of this because this is not the one that belongs to this color. This was a different one, but it's the same yarn. So I don't know the color of this one. I honestly could not find the little paper, but you know, I have that problem that I put them all in one bag and then, yeah, they kind of get lost. I can't find them again. Now the second type of yarn we're using is this Caron Latte Cakes, also by Yarnspirations. This is honestly, I would say, my favorite yarn ever. Well, I don't know, up until now. It is 58% acrylic and 42% nylon and 42% nylon. It is a bulky 5 weight. The recommended hook size is a 6.5 millimeter or a size K 10.5. This is machine washable and dryable. The color of this one is blackberry. Some of the things that I always have on hand are my yarn needle, stitch markers or paper clips, scissors, crochet hooks, and a measuring tape or a ruler. For this project, I will be working with a size 6 millimeter hook or a size J. These are two different styles, but they're the same size. Whichever you prefer to use, you know, you have to try them out sometimes and see what feels more comfortable for you. Now, let's get started. You can start with whichever yarn you want. It doesn't make a difference. Let's do a slip knot first. So you are going to make a little loop with the yarn. Take your hook, go into that circle, under the circle, and you need to grab the loose end, kind of pull it in, but you don't want this loose part to go into the circle. Okay, so you are going to grab a hold of both ends and then pull tight, pull in opposite directions. Now take the loose end and pull on that. To adjust it onto your hook, you want a loop that is not too loose but also not too tight around your hook. I hope that was easy enough. We can do it again. Loop, insert your hook under the loop, then grab a hold of the loose end. Take your thumb, put everything on your hand, grab a hold of both ends, and then pull in opposite directions. Tighten this around your hook. There you have a slip knot. So we need to start with some chains. And of course you want to know, well, how many chains do I have to make, or how long do I have to do this? I like to start with, 30 chains and then measure it and see if I need to take off some chains or add some more, just to give me an idea of how the yarn is going to work with my hook. Now to do those chains, you're going to hold on to everything, and then you're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through that loop. That is your first chain. Again, yarn over and pull the yarn through that loop. There you have 2 chains. Yarn over, pull through. So I have 3 chains now. Like I said, I'm going to make 30 and then measure and see how much more I need to chain. Here are 30 chains, and as you can see, it doesn't get us very far. So we are now at, I'm trying not to pull it, so about 7 inches. That's obviously not wide enough to pull over our heads, unless we're a tiny little baby. So let's continue. Whichever number of chains that you have, you always need to add 1. So if you have 60 chains, you add 1. If you have 73 chains, you add 1. So whatever your last chain is for the measurement that you need, you add 1. That chain doesn't count. That is basically the chain we use to turn. So chain 1. So to do our stitch, this is what it's all about, just a single crochet stitch. One of the most basic stitches that you need in crochet. You can do so many things with this stitch. And all I want to show you with this is that you can make really pretty things with these basic stitches. It's all about changing up the color, which I'm also going to show you a little bit further ahead, how to switch colors. Let me show you up close. This is that extra chain that we added. We need to work our first stitch in here. Okay, there we go. So this is that loop that is on your hook. This is that extra chain that we made to turn, and we will be working in here. This will be your first stitch in here, not this one. So hold everything together, insert your hook into that stitch that I told you, into that chain, then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. That is your first single crochet stitch. Now if you want to, you don't have to. If you want to make sure you know where, when you come back, where this first stitch is, that is where the stitch markers come in handy, or the paper clips, because then you simply go through those 2 loops to show you, okay, that was that first stitch that I made on this row. Let's move on. To do your second single crochet, one might think, oh, I'm just gonna work in here. No, this is the one that you just worked into. You need to go right next door. That is where you will do your second single crochet stitch. So insert your hook through that loop. You're only going to have 1 loop right now. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. There you go. Then move on right next door again, insert your hook through that 1 loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That is your single crochet stitch. You are going to continue this stitch all the way to the other side. This is what it's going to look like. I am almost reaching the end of this first row, because remember we have the foundation chain, and now this was row number 1. I am almost on my last stitch, and I want to show you how to turn in each row. So there's that last chain. I'm going to do my last stitch in there. Sometimes you have to pull a bit on this to adjust it. Let me zoom in. Okay, to turn in each row, all you have to do is chain 1 and turn your work. I always like to turn it in the same direction. So this is where we turned, chain, and we want to work our first stitch for row number 2 in here. But if you can see, there are 2 loops now. So you want to go through both of those loops. Let me show you. So you insert your hook. You see how it's going through both of those loops? Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Once again, if you wanted to, you could add a stitch marker here, just so that you know where your first stitch is. Like I said, this is not a must, it's optional, but it might be helpful if you're just starting out. So that was my first single crochet for row number 2. Now we're moving on. So this is that second stitch, and you want to work through there. Do you see those 2 loops? And you are right here. So not in here, but up here. I'll show you that. Insert your hook through there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That was the second stitch of row number 2. Just always make sure that you're going through both of these loops. Okay, because if you only go through 1 loop, it will look different. You always want to count your stitches. So to count, you just, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to make sure that you still have that same number that you started with. So I'm going to keep working on this, and then I will show you how to switch colors. I wanted to show you, now that I am at the end of row number 2, here's your stitch marker, and that makes it so easy to know where your last stitch will go. Now you can take out the stitch marker before or after, that's up to you. And you just do that last stitch in there, take out your stitch marker, you chain 1, and then you turn again. That's it, that's all there's to it. Just remember, this was the turning chain, and you will work your first stitch of row number 3 in here. Now I want to show you how you can switch yarn. So if you wanted to switch the color or the type of yarn, this is what you would do. I am at the end of row number 3. I did that last stitch where my stitch marker is. Now I'm going to take out my stitch marker. Now there's 2 ways to go about this. One is you take that new yarn and form kind of like a little loop. Then you put it on your hook and pull it through that loop that is on your hook. Now you tighten that, and basically this replaces that loop that you just had on your yarn. And now you chain 1. Just like that. Turn your work and work as usual into that first stitch. And add your stitch marker right here. You don't need to cut off the yarn if you're going to be switching back and forth like I am, but if you're not, then you can always cut off the yarn. Now let me show you the other way to do it, to switch colors. It's basically the same thing, but you take the new yarn and you make a slip knot into it. You can also do it with your hand if you wanted to. Okay, so there's a slip knot made with your hand. Kind of tighten it a little bit to have that loop, and then you pull this loop through the loop that is on your hook. You tighten this, and this acts as the replacement of the one that you just pulled. Then you chain 1 and turn your work, and then you start working into your first stitch. As usual, do your single crochet and add your stitch marker. So those are the 2 ways that you can change your yarn, which is basically the same thing. It's just one has a little slip knot to kind of hold it and it's not slipping, and the other one doesn't. Whatever you prefer is fine either way. I just wanted to show you how you can do it. And this is what that change of color looks like now. Let me show you how I switch this yarn again. So once I'm back here, remember that I didn't cut off the yarn, so now I'm going to show you how I do it since I am changing the yarn again. So I finished my row as usual, but instead of chaining one with this old yarn that I have, I'm going to simply pull up the other yarn. So first I'm going to pull it through. So now I have that loop. Don't pull too tight on this, because if you do, then it's just going to bunch up. Just like that. So now it replaced that little loop that we had. And now you chain one. And you drop the old yarn that you were using, and then you turn your work. And these, don't worry about these because they're going to be worked into the stitches once we close off the scarf. All right, now whether you choose to change colors or not, or the yarn or not, that is up to you. Just continue making rows of single crochets until you have the size that you like. I have done all the rows that I wanted to do, and yes, I did get my nails done in the meantime. If you follow me and watch some of my videos, I pretty much never do my nails, and that is because of this. You see that? How it starts wearing off. First of all, my nails grow really fast, and I am just not good at keeping my nails looking nice, the nail color. So that's why I almost never do it. But I did it this time, and it's only been 2 days, and look at this. Anyway, so here's all the rows that I want to do, and I still have the 2 yarns tagging along. Finished my last row, and the fuzzy yarn, since I'm not going to use that one, I'm going to cut it off. There, now I can put this to the side. We will now join the 2 sides. So we're going to close off the scarf to make it a tube scarf, and also to hide all of these yarns, these threads that I was pulling up each time I switch color. After your last stitch on the last row, you're going to chain 1 and then put these 2 sides together. Make sure that you don't leave your yarn somehow in here or like underneath. Okay, and I have, this is the loose thread from the other yarn, which I am going to run along so I can also hide it at the same time. Just make sure you put these 2 together, and you know that you have, so especially if you switch colors or yarns, it's easier to see which one belongs to which one. So I always have 2 rows of the different yarns that I used. That means I will have 2 stitches here, and then 2 stitches for the fuzzy one, and then 2 again for the plain one, and 2 again for the fuzzy, and so on. Let me actually zoom in. So here's that chain that I made, and I'm going to go into this first stitch right here. Now I go across and find that same stitch. That first stitch is always the most difficult one. I'm gonna go through here, and then my second one will be into this space. So there's our first one. Do my single crochet, then go into the next one over here and across, and do the single crochet. And remember that I'm running this yarn along, so I need to make sure that I grab that. Okay, now I'm going into the fuzzy yarn and just making sure that I have all these yarns in there, going across and single crochet. And then the next one in here, going across, doing a single crochet, Now back into the plain color, so you have to really pull these apart to see it. So just kind of make sure that these line up as best as you can and continue all the way to the bottom until all of this is closed. Okay, once you reach this bottom part, I will show you how to thread in the loose end. I'm here at the bottom. I'm basically closed off the scarf. And yes, I do make a stitch into the foundation row as well, just to completely close it off. Now I am going to cut off my yarn. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through, tighten that. Now you can make a knot down here or two, and to thread in these ends, what you do is you take your yarn needle and you go back and forth through these stitches that you made, and then you go back down, and you can do the same thing with the other one, and then we cut them off, whatever is left over. Once you turn it around, this is what it looks like. You can't even see it. You are going to love this scarf. It is so useful. I love it. My daughter loves it. My sons always want to borrow mine. They just keep you so nice and warm. I hope you enjoyed the video. Follow me on Instagram. Please tag me with your work. I would love to see what you're making. And I will hopefully see you in the next video. This is my channel, Humblehus. Bye.